Hello, good evening, and உயிரினும் மேலான இனிய தமிழ் மக்களே எப்படி இருக்கீங்க? This is your host Venky with today's edition of Southern Spice, the only Tamil program on AM and FM stations in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube on the Southern Spice USA channels, and on terrestrial radio we are on 540 AM, 540 AM in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, 96.7 FM in Edison, New Jersey, and 1310 AM in Parsippany, New Jersey. So the number to call into the studio would be 732-662-4701. And Inniki Southern Spice Nigachila, for the next at least 20 minutes, I'm going to have a very, very important conversation, and I have a very special guest that I'd like to introduce to all of you. அது யாரு அப்படின்னு கேட்டிங்கனாக்க, there is a student with a mission, a high school student who is working tirelessly on something that he's extremely passionate about. அது யாரு அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்க, his name is Nived Lakshman, 17 years old, senior at Downingtown East High School, and he's deeply committed to making a difference in the lives of his peers, basically teenagers, high schoolers, right? His top priority is leading efforts to spread mental health awareness and prevent suicide among high school students. So this is a very, very important thing, மக்களே. ஏன்னா இங்கே வந்து இப்போ நிறைய நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு. It's very disheartening to hear that there's so many mental health issues with high schoolers and teenagers, and he's addressing a very important problem. So without further ado, I want to bring Nived into the screen and into our interviews. Nived, welcome to Southern Spice.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure, Nived, and I just gave a very brief introduction to our listeners and viewers. But what I'd like to do is for you to go into a little bit more detail. I know you've been advocating, suicide prevention and mental health among high schoolers. How did you get into this? What's your background? Why did you get into this?
Yeah, so first I'd like to say hi. Hi, my name's Nived. I'm Nived Lakshman. I'm a senior at Downingtown East High School. And I've been advocating for certain measures, especially for teen-on-teen approaches to suicide prevention. So a lot of the work that I've been doing is to encourage positivity. So a lot of the things that are going wrong in some of the suicide prevention strategies that we do today is that they don't take advantage of the fact that kids know kids best. Teenagers understand the social dynamics of other teenagers very well. So by taking advantage of that within suicide prevention, I feel that we could make better steps, longer steps to, quelling student suicide, which is a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
The statistics are scary. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people from the ages of 10 to 34. And suicide is the third leading cause of death among high schoolers. And I believe it's entirely preventable. So a lot of the work that we've been doing is to get the kids out and to work with administrations throughout the PA NJ area. So this all started when I was working with a state senator, and she had asked all of us, like all of the people in the group, why do you think...
One second. You said you were working with the state senator. Was that like an internship job, or what were you doing with the state senator?
Yeah, so my local state senator, her name is State Senator Muth. I mean, I am in PA, but she held this like youth advisory council thing. And one of the things that she asked a lot of the students to fill out was like, what do you feel like? Why do you feel that suicide is rising? Why do you feel that the mental health faculties within your school are, failing? And I remember filling out, but I also spent some time thinking long and deep about why it was actually failing. And I realized, it comes down to the fact that kids are afraid to approach people they don't necessarily trust on a peer-on-peer level. You say a lot more things to your friend, like a lot more personal things that would fly under the radar to your friend versus a parent or a teacher. So we need to, if we can train kids to see that sign, to understand what is not normal,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd be a better society. And what ended up happening was it ended up snowballing. So I ended up working with my own school district, trying to get some suicide prevention things done there, and it was relatively successful. And I worked with the school district of Philadelphia, not entirely successful there, but I ended up expanding into to where I am now. I just recently organized the March for Teen Life in Harrisburg on October 13th, just a couple weeks ago, and that was something that brought a lot of media attention, brought a lot of support to what we were trying to do here today, a lot of support to what we've been doing, and but I think that it's important for all of us to get involved, for all of us to see the signs, to not let anything slip under the radar.
Very good. Makale, for those of you who joined us late, you're listening to Venky on Southern Spice, and the voice you've been hearing now is that of Nived Lakshman, who's a youth advocate for teen suicide prevention. And we are on Southern Spice on Radio Zindagi and streaming on Facebook and YouTube on Southern Spice USA. So coming back to you, Nived, இது வந்து ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றது வந்து was it just because you were working with the state senator and they gave the idea, or was there any other trigger that got you involved in this so passionately?
Yeah, but I would say that was a part of it, but I would also say that the other part of it was seeing the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary problem that doesn't I don't believe needs to exist. It's the type of problem that I feel that a teen could tackle just as well as an adult. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly felt that a teen could tackle it better than most adults because a lot about I understand a lot about my peers. So that's why I decided to start young, take advantage of the fact that kids would listen to me, take advantage of the fact that adults would listen to the teenage perspective. But I would say the biggest trigger was seeing those statistics that I talked about. The fact that it's the second leading cause of death for people from 10 to 34. It's the third leading cause of death for high schoolers. And I created a plan and I worked with the plan.
Okay. Now, since you for how long, எவ்வளோ நாளா இதுல வந்து you've been involved, and how long have you been working on it?
Well, I would say that I really, really, really got involved around May of last year. May of this year. I started working with school districts, and it took off from there. And
Okay.
I don't, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. It's something that I'm going to continue on. Whether or not, well, even if when I go to college, it's something that I think that I have a unique perspective on as a kid, and
Mhm.
taking advantage of it. I wish I had started earlier. To be honest, I wish that I would have. If I had started earlier, I would have gotten into more places. Right? They would have that high schooler tag would have been there for longer. So I started in May, but I wish I would have started earlier.
No, no, no. There's always a good time for everything. I think you started at the right time. Now, what do you believe are some early warning signs that teens and friends in school kind of should look out for in each other?
Yeah. So again, that's a great question. I think that a lot of teens joke with each other, and in ways that are morbid. I'm being honest as a teen, but there are some signs that are startling. Like they would have suicidal ideations, and they would go into a lot of detail. They'll go into like a staggering amount of detail, and that's how you know that something's not right. And sometimes they would wear very long sleeves, and underneath their arms there'd be cuts because they'd be testing their pain tolerance, and that's what happens with a lot of people in clinical depression. They're cutting themselves and they're wearing long sleeves to hide it. But I would say everyone has a sixth sense. I think we can all agree on this, right? Everyone has a sixth sense when it comes to something. When
Mhm.
you sense that something is off, maybe touch a bit more, understand what's going on. I say, hey, are you okay? Because that's the type of thing that that changes lives. Just a little bit of positivity when someone is going through a staggering period of darkness works so well. And
Amazing. So, if teenagers, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but teenagers prefer speaking to their peers rather than speaking to teachers or parents, correct?
Yeah, so Will, one thing that I've noticed is like I definitely extol more information, more personal, some of the more personal things that I'm going through with my life, like especially mental wise, to my peers. And I think that has a lot to do with the relationship that we have with teachers and parents.
Mm.
Specifically like your teacher. I've thought about this a lot. You kind of have to acknowledge that as a student, right? You have to acknowledge that the teacher knows more than you, which I mean is obvious, right? But that also makes it extremely hard to approach someone with with the thoughts that you're having. Like, um, I would say that I have a very close relationship with a lot of my teachers, but I would I would 100% be scared to talk to them about my suicidal ideations if I had them. And and parents, especially, I don't know, there's no parent who never wanted the best for their kid. That's not a thing. But you know, as we have hormones going through our body, especially puberty and all those things are going on, you kind of isolate yourself from parents in a lot of ways. So a lot of those warning signs go under the radar because teens isolate themselves and teens don't, you know, excrete their feelings to the people who love them the most.
And I would think social media plays a huge part in this, because they're always ensconced in their own devices, and they're only on social media, and they're not really interacting with their parents even while they're at home.
I would I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the teenage mind is still developing. So we are a lot more susceptible to attacks, I would say. And especially like high schoolers can be really rough to other high schoolers. I think,
Yes.
if there are any teens watching the show, I think you'd understand what I'm talking about. It's the fact that, teens can do bad things that they don't think are bad, and it can have tragic consequences on their fellow teens, the people like who are their friends, right? And also teenagers today exist in, as you said, they exist in social and physical realms. So they exist on social media and they exist in person. And that's really hard for a developing mind, that one that's still coming into its own to, you know, kind of deal with. But for example, like I would say that the biggest one of the biggest things that we see is that when you're on social media and you take away that interface, that human on human interface that you and I have, and you just text something to someone, you don't know how much is going to hurt them. You really don't.
Correct.
It's kind of a sincere overlooking that the human mind has. When we don't see the impact that our statements have on the other person, we kind of brush it under the rug. And that happens a lot on social media. I think we've heard of the concept of cyberbullying, right? But it's true. Cyberbullying is something that really does affect, everyone. And I would say that when I was on social media, like, just checking, Twitter or like Instagram or something, and I would see something that's not even directed towards me, and I'd feel hurt. Like, why is this coming towards me?
Yes.
But that's kind of the problem with social media.
Yeah, so social media is a very happy place, and at the same time a little dangerous place also. So it's about how you utilize it and how you handle it. So coming to this part, Nived, you've been advocating um, teen suicide prevention for a while. So if I have to ask you, how can teens start a conversation about mental health with their peers without feeling uncomfortable, right? And a follow up question to that is, what are the resources that are available out there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would honestly say that the amount of resources that we have available today is great. The amount of resources that we have available today is exceptional. I think that, once you say like my friend has suicidal ideations to a teacher, to an administrator, they will go into action. They'll pounce immediately. They'll make sure that that person gets the help they need. I've seen it firsthand. The mental health faculties that we have in our communities are
Right.
so strong. I've seen it
Mhm.
myself. But what happens is the outreach part. And I would say to the people who are scared, or to the people who are scared to approach someone who they believe is in trouble, don't be. I know that's a statement that's hard. That's hard to say as someone who is not in your situation, but you kind of just have to be the person that they need, which
Mm.
is, are you feeling okay? Just a simple, are you feeling okay? Just a simple, I'm here for you. Just a simple, do you need help? Like, I'm here. I can help you out. And I know that with a lot of my friends, I have a very joking relationship, not necessarily a close one, and a close one who I would exude all my personal secrets to, but I would still be willing. I would still have to be willing to ask both of them the same questions about their mental health if they needed it. I think even the smallest amounts of human positivity have such a great impact on someone who is so deep in darkness. And that's what I describe depression as, darkness. They view everything with a very dark lens, a very
Right.
depressed lens, a very sad lens. So if you extol some positivity to them, and if you're worried they're not doing okay, honestly, just be a positive person to them for a little bit. And if they're not getting any better, and they're not responding to you, ask, how are you feeling, man? I would pounce into action. I wouldn't sometimes when it's so bad, like when you see the cuts in the arms, honestly, I wouldn't even ask. I would go get help immediately. That's the type of thing that
That's
I think
amazing.
that so, and
Mm.
that's the type of thing I think teens can be so proactive about. Teens are caring. Teens love each other. Teens want the best for each other. And I think this is the type of thing that all of us can get educated in.
Absolutely. And I think the society at large needs a lot more advocates like you, uh, because how you can probably reach out to one community, but we have such a large country with so many schools. So how does what would you suggest for other teens like you to get involved and become advocates just like you?
Yeah, I would suggest every teen to become an advocate. I think it's one of the most rewarding things that you can do. I think change is this is something I've realized throughout my entire life, which is that change is not made as a one person effort. Change is not made as a solitary effort. Change is made when all of us work together. There's a famous Chinese proverb which is the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Mm.
Well, the journey of 1,000 miles doesn't need to be walked alone. Ending student suicide is one of the hardest things that we can do as a society. But whether you're Democrat, Republican, old, young, a teacher, an administrator, and anyone within our society from all walks of life, that's what America is built upon. You can be the person that the person next to you needs. So I would encourage teens who are interested in this, definitely try to see if the faculties are working in your school. And I
Right.
know, for example, this is filmed in Edison, if I'm not wrong. In Edison, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of high school competition, which is true in my high school as well. But if you feel that your fellow teens aren't doing enough to help their fellow teens, educate them. One thing that we've been trying to do, that I was doing over the summer and I'm trying to do now, is to get kids to create something called a suicide symposium. Basically, you get a health professional, someone who is an expert, and then you and them run the organization, or run the symposium to educate teens educate teens on what the signs are and how they can get involved. And that's the type of thing that works. And I think that for every teen who is interested in this, just remember that one saved life will be worth all your effort. You might not know who that saved life is, but I can promise you, you will save a life if you put in the work and if you help your fellow teens.
Absolutely. Very, very well said, Nived. I think a lot of kids must watch this, must look at you, hear you, listen to you, and also jump in and get involved. So, what is next for you in your mission to support teen mental health and suicide prevention? What are you planning right now? You're in high school. What are your plans?
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. But I would have to say that there is a lot more that we can do. And obviously, I think a lot of especially seniors now are a little busy. But I am projecting that once like this college pandemonium is done, I'm going to be, taking more steps. So I think one more thing that we could do, one thing that I'm planning on doing, later in the year is we held the March for Teen Life, as you know. We held the March for Teen Life in Harrisburg.
Hmm.
But one thing I think that we could do is we could hold a March for Teen Life on the steps of the Capitol, because Harrisburg is the capital of Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of legislation pending for student suicide. So have this is something that we can do. We can have a march on the steps of the Capitol in Harrisburg, and have that basically national stage, because Harrisburg is a major city. And I think that one thing that I want to do before I leave high school and start suicide prevention in colleges is to get other teens involved. like you said, I think if we get teams working in every school district, in every state, I think this would be so successful. This would be so great, and this would be so great for the kids who are suffering.
Absolutely, and this is phenomenal. I wish you all the very best, all the luck. I wish you Godspeed in taking this message and spreading it as far and wide as possible, and getting as many youngsters just like you involved in this, and completely take out this disease called depression and teen suicide. Wish you all the best, Nived. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming here and sharing your knowledge with us. I was saying if you could say something in Tamil for our Tamil listeners, that'll be great.
So I, I'm
I
actually
don't mean to
asking.
put you on the spot.
Sorry, I don't speak Tamil. I'm sorry. I apologize. Um, but if there's a saying you want me to repeat, I could do that. But sorry, I don't speak Tamil. I apologize.
Don't worry. I was just kidding. So enjoy the show and keep up the good work, Nived.
Thank you so much, Venky. Have a great day.
You too.
Do
Bye bye.
you want me to leave? You want me to leave the studio, right?
Yeah, you could. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Venky. Best of luck. Thank you.
Bye bye. All right. So that was Nived Lakshman from So on that note, we end this edition of Southern Spice, and I'll be back in about 10 minutes after the commercial break to discuss the recently concluded US elections. And Adhik, we have a different guest coming on the show. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.